University is highly regarded as a safe and encouraging place of learning for thousands of students across Australia. Today, this secure environment is being threatened by increased figures of sexual assault and harassment. It seems the lines have become blurred in matters of sexual consent, where the University of Technology Sydney ranked number 10 in the universities across Australia for reported sexual assault in 2017. The results came from a survey conducted by the Australian Human Rights Commission last year into sexual assault in universities. Andrew Parfitt, Provost and Senior Vice President of UTS, comments on the results.
It was extremely disappointing to see the prevalence of issues around sexual assault. It was equally disappointing to see that sexual harassment is so accepted within the community, and it translates to a university community where we have expectations of how we behave towards one another. That disappointment needs to translate into action.
This action has been marked through the introduction of compulsory online sexual consent training for all students and teachers in an effort to reduce sexual misconduct incidences.
It's not just about consent, although the module is called Consent Matters. It also talks about respectful behaviour and respectful relationships. It talks about what to do if you're a bystander and you see something that you're uncomfortable with, and also how to find help and get support.
Sexual assault is often difficult to talk about openly, with many victims not knowing where or how to seek support from. Sarah Locke, Head of Counselling at UTS, highlights why consent is important in her role within the university.
I feel as though we're having more conversations about sexual assault and harassment now. When we see students who have had an experience of a sexual offence, I guess if we were to pick out some common themes, they'd be around trauma. The psychological term or category for that is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's sort of a whole set of symptoms that come into play after somebody's been through something traumatic. Symptoms like anxiety, you might see the person being hypervigilant, like on high alert all the time, which has a really big impact on the body and on the person psychologically. Sleep can be a big problem, concentration difficulties, then you can get sort of mood problems.
This new consent education is beginning to raise the question: will the training produce meaningful change within the university to reverse the culture of sexual assault? UTS Student Welfare Association Welfare Officer Llewellyn Parry is not so sure.
I think it's definitely a good start to trying to address the problem that is sexual assault and sexual harassment on university campuses. I think there's a case to be made that it perhaps isn't enough if this is where it ends.
I would be really disappointed if it was seen as tokenistic. I think any conversation or training or interaction that we can have where just even the word consent and the concept of consent is raised is worthwhile. I think it's a fantastic initiative that makes sure that the university is putting out a clear message that this is front and centre issue that we're taking very seriously.
Women's Officer Lana Miltek believes equal focus on teachers completing the online consent training is necessary for a real widespread difference to be felt.
I think the Women's Collective, the stance is very positive. I think it's a really important step towards improving the status of sexual harassment, sexual assault on campus, because as we saw with the Human Rights Commission report, it's appalling and change does need to happen. But I think there are still some issues about how it's being released. It's going to take around 3 years for it to roll out to casual teachers and lecturers, which is just not okay. I think teachers are very much a part of this whole movement and they very much need to be included.
Starting a conversation about consent is important, as it will help build healthy relationships and create a shared understanding of what is and isn't acceptable in the university community.
With consent, talking to people about checking and asking. So I think people typically don't want to verbalise and check in about where the other person's at when this kind of, interaction is progressing. It's better to be sure than to be not sure. And so it's about sort of increasing the direct communication about sexual interactions and comfort. So to talk about them in counselling in a safe environment, I think that's something that really stands out to me as conversations that I've had quite a lot in the last year.
The University of Technology is working hard in order to reverse the statistics presented by the Australian Human Rights Commission, with the end game of the online consent training being
In the long term, we want a respectful community. We want a community that people want to come to and enjoy all that's on offer at the university. The result of all our work will hopefully be to absolutely improve that environment and ensure that we have a safe and respectful place of work and study.